Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts, do some TA, look at all this crazy up and down action we've been happening, look at the longer term time frames and the short term time frames. So if that sounds interesting, stay tuned and let's get into the charts. First of all, just want to apologize, it's been quite a long time since my last video. I've had quite a lot going on, so I apologize for that. Hopefully get back onto a regular schedule with a video every 3 days at least. So I'm going to start here on the 2-week chart for Bitcoin. I think it's just interesting to look at Bitcoin here on this time scale. We can see it sort of smooths out all the candles here. We can see we're in this range around 56,000 to 60,000, and most of the bodies of the candles were within this range at the top. And also down here at the bottom, we've been stuck in this green box for almost 2 months here. We can see previously we were in this range back in January. This range is around 35.8 down to 33.1. And we can see we've closed all of these 2-week bodies of these candles inside this range. And we'll be looking to close above this range or below this range to dictate the direction for Bitcoin. And we did just open this candle here on the 5th of July. So the next candle won't be till the 19th of July. So we'd like to see Bitcoin get above that 35.8 level by the time we open this new candle on the 19th of July. And over to the weekly time frame here, we can see this lighter yellow colored line here is the 50-week exponential moving average. And we can see we're closing all the weekly candles above this moving average. And it does seem to be holding Bitcoin up for the time being. This dark yellow line is the 50-week moving average, and the green line is the 21-week moving average. And we can see once we did break that, we did have this big drop. And eventually we would like to see Bitcoin get back above this moving average, which is currently at 40,640. And it is coming down about $1,000 per week at the moment. Onto Bitcoin on the daily here, and I just want to compare these two ranges we were talking about on that 2-week chart. You can see I've got this orange line marking the top of this range here, which also coincides with the top of this range, and the bottom of the range here on this green candle also corresponds pretty much spot on with the bottom of the range on this formation here. So there is a lot of similarities between these two. We can see we did a similar triangle pattern here. And we broke down, and then we had this rising channel. And once we got above this point of control here, this red line on the VPVR, this is where the most amount of volume was traded. This was around the 34,000 level. You can see once we did get back above this after being below it, then we did carry on higher and eventually break the top of this range. And currently we can see we've got a VPVR on this range also. We can see we had this triangle pattern. We dropped below, and then we did try to break up, got a strong rejection here down, and now we're also in this similar channel, and the point of control here is around 35,920. So I would like to see Bitcoin try and get above this area, similar to what we did here back in February. And I think once we can get above this red line and hold this trend line here of support, I think we've got a chance to push for the top of this range. We also have this yellow dotted trend line here connecting the bottoms up here, and we can see we did get rejected here when we did come up to a test it the first time. So this will be an important trend line to break. Also have this purple trend line just connecting the tops here and this attempted breakout here, and we can see currently we have broken above that area, and we are currently above it. And that's a good sign for Bitcoin. And just to look at those two ranges side by side here, this one on the bottom is the one back in January, February. And this is our current pattern here with the point of controls. And we can see we had this downward sloping trend line here. And once we did get above it and above this point of control, then we did break above higher. Have a similar downward sloping trend line here, which we have gotten above. And now we do need to break this point of control. So I do think we're coming close to a resolution here on this range. And I think by sometime mid next week, we will either break down from this trend line or get above this point of control. And hopefully Bitcoin can do a similar thing to back in February here and start to push towards the upside and break this range. And just to look at the overall VPVR here, over this whole formation here from the start of the year, we can see the point of control is around 34,380. Currently we are just peaking above that. And we can see basically this starts to drop off the higher we go above this point of control, and also to the downside here. But we can see all these wicks here. When we have dropped, it's been bought up, so that's a good sign for Bitcoin. And obviously getting above the top side of this range, there isn't much volume traded here, and there won't be much resistance, I don't think. And the top of that area is around 42,000. So back onto the daily chart here for Bitcoin. And just looking at the RSI here, we can see that we have been experiencing resistance from this downward trend line all the way back in January since the start of the year. And we also have this uptrend here with 2 contact points. And we can see we're getting close to the end of this range, which would be around the 17th, 18th of July. We can see we are trying to push higher here. We also have this Wing pattern here with higher lows. So we'd like to see this RSI get above this 49 area. We are quite close, and I think we might have a push to the upside. We can see that also in the chart here, this Wing pattern. We need to get above this midline at 35,960, and the measured move for this W breakout would be just taking it from the bottom of the lower W to the neckline and putting it at the breakout point of the neckline, and this would take Bitcoin up to 39.3, and we can see that would line up with the top of this trend line here also. And just to show that a bit more clearly here, we can see the breakout target here comes to the top of the trend line. We also have this resistance from the daily EMA ribbon coming in. And if we were to do this measured move, it would push us just above the EMA ribbon here. So that would be a good sign for Bitcoin. And it would be nice to get above this trend line that's been keeping us down for the whole year here. And the RSI is currently at the 48 area, so it has plenty of room to go up. The stochastic RSI is quite high, around the 74 level. So we'll have to see what's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen pretty soon, over the next few days possibly. And one of the reasons why I think this move's going to happen quite soon is if we look at the Bollinger Bands here on the daily, these 2 white lines here, we can see that they are squeezing quite a lot here. This is the closest they've been for quite a long time. And when these do squeeze together, it precipitates a big move coming. We also have this Ichimoku cloud here on the daily, quite strong resistance. It doesn't mean that we can't break through it. And here's a similar example here, back in the end of 2019, early 2020, where we did form this bottoming pattern here. We had this large cloud of resistance, and then we did break through it eventually here and got above the cloud and carried on higher. We can also see on the 12-hour chart that these Bollinger Bands are also squeezing quite a bit here, and this cloud isn't as strong on the 12-hour, and it looks like we're trying to push up through it at the moment. And also on the weekly, we can see we are still getting supported by this ribbon. We haven't closed a candle below it. The bottom of this ribbon's at 32.7, and the top of the ribbon is around 40,800. And back to the daily, we can see we did have this death cross here. Bitcoin did drop a bit further down, and we've been going sideways here. This 50 daily moving average is currently at 36,000. The 200 daily moving average is around 44.3, and the 21-day moving average here, we are just battling it at the moment. That's around 34.8. So ideally, we want to get above this 50 daily moving average, perhaps trade in the range here between the 50 and the 200 until the 50 daily moving average starts curling around, and we look to get that golden cross as we break back above the 200-day moving average. There's some levels to look for where we might get support and resistance, and we look for the areas where Bitcoin was trending in one direction and we went sideways for a while here, and we can draw boxes around these candles. So this would be one area here around 36.7 to 37.2. So we can see these three different areas here. We went sideways here in the downtrend. Also here we went sideways in this uptrend, and just here where we went sideways here. So we just mark off those bodies of those candles, and we can see we have these three ranges. And this first range we're slightly above. It's between 34.5, 34.7. The next area is around 35.4 to 35.8. And the final area is at 36.7 to 37.4. So if we can hold this area closing above it, I think we'll move back up to test this area next. We can see we got resistance here previously, and we could also add two more here from this previous formation, and we can see here where we went sideways. This one's already counted from the other formation, and also this area here where we went sideways, which is marked off with this lower green box. So overall it would look like this, and we've just added this lower range here around 33,000 to 32,000, and this upper range here at 39.3 to 38.9. So these are the key levels I'll be watching, and I think we'll just watch Bitcoin go between these levels, hopefully use them as support to go to the next level. And also been keeping an eye on the US dollar index, and we can see here back in March after the financial crisis, the dollar's been dropping ever since then, and we have had these bounces, but we are making lower highs, and we are coming to test the top of this triangle range. And when the dollar does drop, it can be quite good for Bitcoin. We normally see Bitcoin go up, and the opposite is also true. And just looking a bit closer here, we can see the RSI is quite high, and once we get above this dotted line, quite often we do get a pullback, and the stochastic RSI on the daily is around a 40 area and is coming down. But we do also have this bearish divergence that looks to be playing out. We can see we had higher highs on the price and lower highs on the RSI. Perhaps we'll come back to touch this line, maybe make a triple bearish divergence here, and then I think the US dollar might have one more pullback, come back to the lower side of this range, and this should be quite good for Bitcoin. Hopefully we can get a pump at the same time for Bitcoin and try to break that range. And just looking at the CME Bitcoin Futures chart here, we have this larger triangle here, and we can see we are above the triangle at the moment. We have used it as support, this trend line, and we are pushing higher. We also have this gap here, which never got filled, around the 46.6 to 48.3 level. We also have this downward sloping trend line in yellow connecting the tops here, and we are also above this trend line. So we did have this gap last weekend here, and we did come down and wick down and fill this gap, and now we are above these two trend lines, and it's looking quite good for Bitcoin here on the futures chart. And just looking at market cipher quickly here on the weekly, we are still waiting for this green dot here on the weekly. We can see it's getting closer and closer, and hopefully by next week's open we might see a green dot. If we did have a big pump before the end of the week, we might get a green dot here, or we might get one at the start of next week. And again, the last time we had a green dot here on the weekly was all the way back after the stock market crash. And we can see it marked the bottom, and then we carried all the way from 6,000 to 60,000. On the 5-day, we had a green dot, and then followed by a red dot after this big drop to 28k, 29k. And then we have got another green dot here, which has been confirmed as we open the new 5-day on the 5th of July. The 4 days also similar. We had that green dot. We had this big drop with the red dot. Now we have got another green dot here, which also has been confirmed. Same thing with the 3-day, green dot, red dot, and another green dot here, and that's also been confirmed. And the 2-day also has got this green dot. We're still looking for this blue wave to come back up. You can see the money flow has started going into the red here, so we do need to see this come back up here and get above this 0 line and try to make a run for the top of this triangle at least. The daily is a little bit concerning here. We had this red blood diamond here, which can indicate a big drop. that was on yesterday's candle. That has been confirmed. We're yet to see a big drop result from it though, and we do currently have a green dot here. We've been printing red, green, so it is quite indecisive here. The money flow is in the red, so we'd like to see this blue wave cross above this zero line and try to make a run like we did here in this previous pump to the upside. So there are a little bit of mixed messages here, but I think the key one to watch is that weekly chart and looking for that green dot on the weekly. The 12 hour is also similar to the daily. We have that green dot here, have been quite indecisive. And the 6 hour also has a green dot, and we can see this red money flow has crossed to the upside here, and we are starting to come into the green, so that is a good sign. And the 4 hour is also in the green on the money flow. We are looking to come back above this zero line with this blue wave. So there are some good signs here. Depends on what time scale you're looking at, and we'll just have to keep watching to see what happens with Bitcoin over this week and next week. But I do think a big move is coming when looking at that Bollinger Bands. They are squeezing quite a lot, and it does normally precipitate a bigger move. So I think we will find out quite soon. So hopefully that was enjoyable. Sorry I haven't been making videos recently, and I will try to get back on schedule. So thanks for watching. I'm Bitcoin Mamo. See you next time. Bye.